The current system apportions electoral college vote based upon population plus 2. So that constitutional compromise allows every state, including the District of Columbia, at least 3 electoral college votes, with the exception of the District of Columbia, 1 votes based on population plus 2 senators. It takes a majority of those electoral college votes, or 270 electoral college votes, out of 538 votes cast in order to be president. In 2000, it was very, very close in the Electoral College, even with Florida. Often, the Electoral College magnifies victories. And it is correct that it's usually right. It's a system of indirect election, and it's the only one in national government that is left in place. For example, we used to indirectly elect senators. We no longer do that. We haven't for a really long time. We vote for them directly. So that's the system we have in place, and in my judgment, even if you think that system is pretty good or okay, that it favors states, it values stability and federalism, that is recognizing the power of states in a national system, which is not necessarily bad. I know that may be something that you say is characteristic of our nation and not a bad thing. I think probably the most dangerous part of that system is if there fails to be a majority. And that is in the House of Representatives that each state delegation would have 1 vote. As Todd said, in 1968 there was fear that that would happen because, as rarely happens, a third-party candidate, George Wallace, actually won the most votes in a number of southern states. And he came pretty close in other states. Wallace had the potential to throw the vote to the House of Representatives. And in that case, it is very, very undemocratic because state delegations have 1 vote in that decision. And I believe it's the top 3 vote getters that are put forward in the election. So that happens in the House of Representatives, and I think most people find that very undemocratic, and I think most people are really unaware of that being the fallback. So I certainly think that there are things to be changed. The national popular vote movement moves us in a way, it moves us away from that potential. And I think that it also, how am I doing with time?
5 minutes.
Okay. The national popular vote, as compared with the electoral college vote, would keep that structure in place, at least initially. That is, that focus on federalism. And it would say that states who join a national compact that would only be activated when enough states join that would equal at least 270 votes, or the number of votes that would sway any national election, that when that happens, after conversations in states, and I need to tell you that I have with me numerous editorials in newspapers, and there have been numerous good government conversations about this. So even though we could say, well, not much is known about it, people are beginning to know about it. But when it gets to 270 votes, that compact would be activated. Once it is known who has won the national popular vote, those states would, by state statute, swing their electoral college vote to that person. And so they would assure that the popular vote winner wins the election. They would assure that the person who got the most votes would win the election. And it would move the United States to a system that is more like many of the democracies in the rest of the world. And I believe that there would be time between now, when 6 states have done this, and people are really starting to see this move up the agenda across the country, and the time when that compact would be activated to deal with some of these questions about representation and rules and comparability across states. But in fact, what we would be doing is moving away from federalism, ideally, to a more national vote. Now, whether that's good or bad is yet to be decided. But it is time to have this conversation, and national popular vote moves us in that direction. I thank you.
Well, let us take a 10-minute break, and then we will convene and have your questions ready.